I remember the exact moment my stomach dropped. It wasn't when my best friend uploaded the video. It wasn't when it hit 10,000 views in an hour. It wasn't even when it crossed 1 million. It was when he looked me in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Bro, relax. It was just an idea. Just an idea." That's what he called it. The idea I had spent 8 months obsessing over. The idea I whispered to him at 2:17 a.m. while we were sitting in his car outside my apartment, eating cold fries and talking about how we were going to escape our 9 to 5 jobs. The idea I sketched out in my notebook. The branding. The name. The editing style. The upload strategy. Even the intro music vibe. And he launched it. Without me. His name was Marcus. And for almost 10 years, he was my brother. Ryan. That's me. 26 years old. Working a job I hated. Editing YouTube videos for small creators who paid late and complained often. Watching other people build audiences while I stayed invisible. I didn't want fame. I wanted ownership. I wanted something that was mine. Marcus and I met freshman year of college. Same dorm floor. Same broke lifestyle. Same late night ambitions. We used to sit on the rooftop and talk about how one day we'd make it. He always said, when one of us blows up, we both eat. I believed him. Because that's what best friends do. They build together. The idea started simple. A YouTube channel that broke down viral internet drama, but not like everyone else. Not lazy screen recordings. Not fake outrage. Deep dives. Cinematic storytelling. Psychological breakdowns. Make the audience feel like they are watching a Netflix documentary, but on YouTube. I spent weeks researching. Months refining. I even built a prototype intro. Dark piano. Slow zooms. Tension. Marcus watched it on my laptop one night. He leaned back. Quiet. Then he said something I'll never forget. This could go huge. And the way he said it wasn't excitement. It was calculation. I didn't see it then. I should have. I trusted him with everything. Login mockups. Channel name drafts. Monetization strategy. I even showed him the content calendar. He'd nod. Ask smart questions. Offer suggestions. Maybe post 3 times a week instead of 2. Start with controversial topics to spike growth. Use shock thumbnails. I thought we were brainstorming. He was studying. Then life got busy. I was freelancing heavy that month. 2 clients fell behind on payment. Rent was coming up. I had to pause production to focus on cash flow. Marcus said, "No worries. We'll launch when you're stable." We'll launch. That's what he said. 2 weeks later, I woke up to 37 missed calls. My phone was vibrating like something terrible had happened. I checked Instagram. 3 DMs from random people. "Is this your channel?" I clicked the link. My hands went cold. There it was. The exact name. The exact branding style. The exact concept. Uploaded under his name. Marcus V. First video, 312,000 views in 8 hours. I felt like I was watching someone wear my skin. Same pacing. Same dark intro tone. Even the thumbnail format I designed. My chest tightened. My ears started ringing. I called him. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. I drove to his apartment. He opened the door like nothing happened. Like we were about to grab coffee. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just said, "You launched it." He sighed. Like I was overreacting. "Ryan, bro, you weren't moving on it." I couldn't just sit around. Couldn't sit around. 8 months of work. And he called it sitting around. "It was my idea," I said. He shrugged. "It was an idea we talked about." No, it wasn't. He knew that. And I knew that. But in that moment, I realized something worse than betrayal. He wasn't even ashamed. The channel crossed 1 million subscribers in 4 months. Sponsorships started rolling in. Brand deals. Ad revenue. Podcast invitations. He started dressing different. Talking different. Posting grind mindset quotes. And every time he went viral, my phone would light up. "Isn't this your concept? Didn't you tell me about this last year?" I'd reply with something neutral. "Yeah, we worked on it together." Worked on it together. I hated myself for typing that. But I didn't want drama. Not yet. Because something inside me shifted. The anger wasn't explosive. It was quiet. Cold. Patient. I stopped trying to argue with him. Stopped confronting him. Stopped reacting. Instead, I started researching. Copyright law. Intellectual property. Business entity filings. Digital asset ownership. Because here's what Marcus didn't know. While he was filming and flexing, I still had every timestamp draft. Every original script. Every project file. Every logo file created on my Adobe account. The domain name? Registered under my email. 6 months before he launched. He never asked about that. He never thought to check. He thought going viral meant winning. He didn't understand something. I wasn't building a channel. I was building a foundation. And foundations don't disappear just because someone paints the house. The night his channel hit 2 million subscribers, he threw a party. Influencers everywhere. Music blasting. Champagne bottles popping. He invited me. I went. Not as his friend. Not as his partner. As something else. I watched him toast the room. To believing in yourself when nobody else does. The crowd cheered. Nobody else does. He glanced at me for half a second. That look. That smirk. He thought he had buried me. But what he didn't realize, I had already filed something that morning. And when the email arrives, everything he built is going to shift under his feet. Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. And when it happens, he won't be able to call it just an idea. I didn't sleep that night. Not after the party. Not after watching Marcus stand on that marble kitchen island, champagne bottle in hand, thanking everyone who believed in him from day one. From day one. I was day one. But I wasn't in the speech. I was in the shadows. Standing near the hallway. Watching strangers celebrate something that started in my bedroom. When I left his apartment, the music was still blasting. Laughter echoing into the hallway. Someone shouted his name like he was a celebrity. Marcus. 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 That name used to feel like loyalty. Now it felt like a brand. The next morning, I sat at my desk staring at my laptop. My hard drives were spread out in front of me. External backups. Cloud backups. Archive drafts. 8 months of receipts. People think revenge starts with anger. It doesn't. It starts with silence. And I was very, very quiet. I opened the original project folder. Creation date, February 14th. 6 months before Marcus uploaded his first video. Inside it. A channel name concepts. A logo drafts. Thumbnail templates. A monetization roadmap. Email pitch templates. Script outlines. I even had a screen recording of me testing the intro music timing. Timestamped. Unedited. Proof. Marcus didn't steal an idea. He stole intellectual property. And there's a difference. I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Not one of those flashy influencer attorneys. A quiet one. Grey hair. Thin glasses. Minimal office decor. His name was Daniel. He didn't interrupt me while I talked. Didn't react dramatically. Just listened. When I finished explaining everything, he leaned back and asked one question. Did you ever register the domain? I slid a printed confirmation across the desk. Registered under my LLC. 9 months ago. His eyebrows lifted slightly. And the branding files? Created and exported on my system. Metadata intact. He nodded slowly. Did he sign anything? No. Did you? No. Silence filled the room. Then he said something that made my pulse steady instead of race. You might have leverage. Not guaranteed victory. Not revenge. Leverage. That word tasted better than anger ever did. Meanwhile, Marcus's channel was exploding. 3 million subscribers. Clips reposted everywhere. Reaction videos about his reaction videos. Brands were competing to sponsor him. I watched everything. Not emotionally. Strategically. I analyzed his upload patterns. His business registrations. His sponsorship disclosures. He was scaling fast. Too fast. And when people scale fast, they cut corners. Marcus had always been impatient. In college, he once submitted a group project without proofreading. We got a B-. He blamed the professor. He never liked slowing down. And that trait? Was about to cost him everything. Daniel drafted the first notice. Professional. Precise. No emotion. Claim of prior intellectual property development. Evidence attached. Request for ownership discussion. Not a threat. An invitation. We didn't send it yet. Timing matters. Daniel told me, if we strike too early, he'll pivot and rebrand. Let him grow. The bigger it gets, the harder it falls. That sentence echoed in my head for days. Let him grow. The bigger it gets, the harder it falls. I kept showing up to events. Smiling. Congratulating him. Listening carefully. One night, after a panel discussion, Marcus pulled me aside. You've been quiet lately. I've been busy. With what? I smiled. Planning. He laughed. You still on that YouTube grind? Still. Like I was behind. Like I was chasing him. I shrugged. Something like that. He didn't see it. He didn't see that I wasn't chasing anything. I was positioning. The turning point came unexpectedly. One of his editors quit. Burnout. Late payments. Creative disagreements. Marcus posted a passive-aggressive tweet about disloyal people. I DM'd the editor. We grabbed coffee. He vented. About unpaid bonuses. About rushed scripts. About Marcus demanding output without structure. And then he said something that made my brain lock in. He doesn't even own half the assets. He keeps everything messy. No contracts. No system. No contracts. No system. Marcus was building a skyscraper on sand. I wasn't going to push it over. I was going to let gravity do its job. Daniel made one more suggestion. File for official copyright registration on your original works. Retroactive documentation helps. We did. Every script outline. Every branding concept. Every audio prototype. Filed. Stamped. Logged. Paper beats popularity. Every time. The email was ready. The formal notice. The claim. The attached evidence. We waited. Then Marcus hit 5 million subscribers. He announced a live tour. Merch line. Podcast launch. Multi-year sponsorship deal. Daniel looked at me and asked, "Are you ready?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. He clicked send. And somewhere across the city, in a glass-walled office Marcus had just rented. His phone buzzed. He probably thought it was another brand deal. Another congratulations. Another opportunity. He opened it. And for the first time since he stole my idea, he wasn't smiling. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Marcus. I let it ring. He called again. And again. And again. Finally, I answered. What is this? He demanded. His voice wasn't confident anymore. It was sharp. Tight. It's a conversation, I said calmly. You're threatening my business. No, I replied. I'm protecting mine. Silence. I could hear his breathing change. You're bluffing. Read the attachments. He hung up. I sat back in my chair. Not shaking. Not angry. Just steady. Because this wasn't revenge fueled by rage. This was restoration. He thought viral meant invincible. But he forgot something about me. I build slowly. Carefully. And when I move, I don't miss. Marcus didn't respond for 2 days. No public statement. No tweets. No uploads. For the first time in over a year. Silence. His audience started asking questions. Where's the next video? Everything okay? Is he sick? I knew exactly what he was doing. Damage control. Calling lawyers. Scrambling. Trying to understand how something he thought was untouchable suddenly had fingerprints all over it, and none of them were his. On the 3rd day, he texted me. Not called. Texted. Let's meet. No emojis. No brother talk. Just business. We met at the same diner we used to eat at in college. The booth in the back corner. Sticky table. Neon light flickering above us. He looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes. Phone face down on the table like it was a loaded weapon. You blindsided me, he said. I took a sip of coffee. I warned you the day you launched. He shook his head. You never said you'd try to take it. Try. He still thought this was an attempt. A move. A bluff. I didn't try, I replied. I documented. His jaw tightened. You're going to ruin everything. I leaned forward slightly. You ruined something first. For a split second. I saw it. Guilt. Then it disappeared. Replaced with ego. Ryan, be realistic. It's my face on the channel. My voice. My audience. There it was. Ownership by visibility. He thought performance erased origin. I pulled out a folder. Printed documentation. Timeline comparisons. Metadata screenshots. Domain registration dates. Original script drafts that matched his first 3 viral uploads almost word for word in structure. He flipped through the pages. His breathing changed again. Slower. Measured. You've been planning this? Yes. How long? Since the party. His eyes flicked up. The night he toasted himself. The night he erased me publicly. He looked away first. Here's what Marcus didn't understand. This wasn't about destroying him. It was about control. Control of narrative. Control of assets. Control of the thing he built on my blueprint. Daniel had structured the claim carefully. We weren't asking for damages yet. We were asserting prior ownership rights and demanding negotiation. And because the branding, structure, and creative foundation could be legally tied to my documented work, he couldn't just ignore it. His sponsors couldn't ignore it. And investors? They hate uncertainty. That same evening, a quiet email went out to his primary sponsor. Not from me. From Daniel. Informing them of an active intellectual property dispute regarding foundational channel assets. Professional. Neutral. Terrifying. Because sponsorship contracts include morality clauses. And risk clauses. And anything involving legal instability is risk. Marcus called me again that night. This time his voice was lower. You contacted my sponsor. My attorney did. You're messing with my income. You messed with mine first. Silence. Then he said something desperate. We can split it. I almost laughed. Split it? After a year of pretending I didn't exist. After interviews where he said the idea came to him randomly one night. After podcasts where he described building from scratch. Now he wanted partnership. I didn't respond immediately. Let the silence sit. Let him feel it. What are you asking for? He finally said. And that was the moment. The moment power shifted completely. Because he wasn't denying anymore. He wasn't mocking. He wasn't minimizing. He was negotiating. I'm asking for ownership recognition, I said calmly. Equity transfer. Backdated credit. And creative control moving forward. His eyes widened. You're insane. No, I replied. I'm patient. He leaned back in the booth. Hands gripping his hair. You'll destroy the brand. Only if you force me to. I wasn't threatening. I was stating a fact. Because Daniel had another card ready. A platform-level complaint. With documented evidence. If escalated, it wouldn't just trigger sponsor reviews. It could freeze monetization during investigation. Temporary. But devastating. Marcus was leveraged to growth. High expenses. Office lease. Editor payroll. Merch inventory. Tour deposits. Freeze the revenue for even a month? He'd bleed. 3 days later, the first sponsor paused their campaign. Publicly. No details given. Just, pending review. Twitter noticed. Speculation started. Drama channels began whispering about behind-the-scenes issues. The irony wasn't lost on me. A drama analysis channel? Becoming drama. Marcus texted. What do you want? Not angry. Not arrogant. Just tired. I stared at the screen for a long time. Because revenge is easy. Destruction is easy. But restructuring power? That requires precision. And I wasn't done calculating yet. That night, I opened my laptop. Started building something new. Not a separate channel. Not competition. A legal entity structure. A holding company. If this resolved the way I intended, I wouldn't just take credit. I'd take control. And when Marcus finally realized what I was really doing, it wouldn't feel like an attack. It would feel like inevitability. He thought going viral made him untouchable. He thought views meant victory. But this was never about views. It was about foundation. And foundations belong to the person who poured them. Not the one who painted over them. Marcus stopped posting for 9 days. 9. For a channel that uploaded 3 times a week like clockwork, that silence was louder than any controversy. Reddit threads started forming. Twitter speculation. Did he get sued? Is he sick? Why did his sponsor drop him? He posted a vague Instagram story. Sometimes growth comes with challenges. Challenges. He used to mock influencers who wrote captions like that. Now he was one of them. Behind the scenes, his management team reached out to Daniel. Formal. Polite. Requesting a meeting. They wanted clarity. They wanted understanding. What they really wanted was damage assessment. Because here's what Marcus didn't expect. When the sponsor paused their deal, 2 smaller brands followed. Not because they knew details. Because uncertainty spreads faster than facts. And the moment money hesitates, confidence cracks. We met in a conference room downtown. Marcus, his manager, his lawyer, Daniel, and me. Marcus didn't look at me at first. Like eye contact would confirm something he didn't want to admit. His lawyer started. We believe this is a misunderstanding between friends. Friends. I almost smiled. Daniel replied calmly. This is a documented intellectual property dispute. Slides appeared on the screen. Timeline comparisons. File creation metadata. Branding drafts that predated the channel's launch. Even the original slogan concept. Marcus shifted in his seat. His manager looked confused. You never mentioned this, she whispered to him. He didn't respond. Then Daniel dropped the part Marcus wasn't ready for. The domain is owned by Mr. Ryan's LLC. Silence. Heavy. Marcus finally looked at me. What? I held his gaze. You never asked. He blinked. For over a year, he had been building brand equity on a name that legally routed back to my registered business entity. Which meant merchandise, expansion, rebranding, long-term licensing. All of it sat on unstable ground. His lawyer cleared his throat. We can negotiate purchase. Purchase. Now it was an asset. Not just an idea. I leaned forward slightly. It's not for sale. Marcus slammed his palm lightly against the table. This is insane. Daniel didn't react. Or, Daniel continued calmly, ownership can be restructured. That's when the room shifted. Because restructure doesn't mean destroy. It means transfer. And transfer means power. Marcus finally spoke directly to me. What do you actually want? I let the silence stretch. Not to intimidate him. But because this moment mattered. I want majority equity. His manager inhaled sharply. You're asking to take his company. No, I said evenly. I'm asking to take back mine. The words hung in the air. Because that's what this was. Restoration. Not theft. Not sabotage. Restoration. Marcus laughed. But it wasn't confident. It was brittle. You don't have an audience. I don't need one. He didn't understand that. He thought audience equaled ownership. But business doesn't work like that. Infrastructure wins. Contracts win. Documentation wins. He built the performance layer. I built the foundation. And foundations always outlast performers. The meeting ended without agreement. But that wasn't a loss. Because on the way out, his manager asked Daniel for a copy of all documentation. They were worried. Which meant the pressure was working. 2 days later, Marcus posted again. Back to regular uploads. Smiling. Energetic. Pretending nothing was wrong. But I noticed something subtle. The intro music was slightly different. The tagline slightly reworded. The thumbnail style adjusted. He was trying to pivot away from direct matches. Too late. The record was already established. And changing it now only confirmed instability. The audience started noticing inconsistencies. Why does it feel different? Old vibe was better. Something's off. Something was off. And it wasn't the content. It was him. Because when someone builds success on a lie, they're always waiting for exposure. That kind of pressure leaks into performance. Then the email arrived. From his lawyer. Proposal. Minor equity percentage. NDA. Mutual silence. No public credit adjustment. Essentially, take this and disappear. I stared at the offer for a long time. A year ago, I would have taken it. Money. Peace. Closure. But that was before the interviews. Before the speeches about self-made hustle. Before he looked at me and said, it was just an idea. This wasn't about compensation. It was about correction. And correction requires visibility. I called Daniel. We reject it. He didn't hesitate. Understood. And then he said something that made my pulse steady again. We escalate. Not emotionally. Strategically. Escalate meant formal filing. Escalate meant platform review. Escalate meant discovery process. And discovery? For someone who scaled too fast and skipped structure? Is terrifying. Because discovery digs. Contracts. Payments. Internal communications. Early drafts. And if they pulled text messages from the months before launch? The ones where Marcus said, this could go huge. The ones where he said, let's build this together. The narrative wouldn't survive. That night, Marcus called again. Not yelling. Not angry. Just heavy. You're going to burn everything down. I replied quietly. No. I'm just removing what isn't yours. Long pause. And then, for the first time, he said my name the way he used to. Ryan, please. And that word, please, almost made me hesitate. Almost. But then I remembered the party. The toast. The erasure. And I knew something he didn't. This wasn't even the real turning point yet. Because tomorrow morning, another sponsor was about to pause. And when that happens, the real panic begins. The second sponsor paused at 9:12 a.m. I know the exact time because Marcus called me at 9:14. He didn't say hello. They're freezing payments. His voice wasn't angry. It was strained. Like someone trying to keep a crack from spreading through glass. How long? I asked calmly. 30 days. Pending review. 30 days. For a creator whose entire operation ran on consistent cash flow, that wasn't just inconvenient. It was destabilizing. Office rent. Editor salaries. Merch production. Tour deposits. Taxes. Growth is expensive. And Marcus built his empire assuming the river would never stop flowing. Now it was trickling. By noon, his management team had scheduled another emergency meeting. This time, Marcus looked different. Not tired. Not frustrated. Scared. His lawyer spoke less confidently now. We'd like to explore structured settlement. Structured. Which meant they knew brute force wasn't going to work. Daniel kept his tone neutral. My client is open to restructuring ownership. Marcus leaned forward. What does that actually mean? It means you lose control. But I didn't say it like that. It means we formalize reality, I replied. He clenched his jaw. You're enjoying this. That almost made me laugh. Enjoying? No. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't celebrating. If anything, I felt strangely hollow. Because watching someone you once called brother unravel isn't satisfying. It's sobering. But justice doesn't require joy. It requires balance. Daniel laid out the framework. Majority equity transfer to my holding company. Public acknowledgement of co-creation. Revenue restructuring. Creative oversight clause. In simple terms, Marcus keeps his face. I keep the foundation. And control. His manager whispered something urgently in his ear. He shook his head at first. Ego fighting survival. But survival was louder now. Because right as we sat there, a third brand emailed requesting clarification on legal instability. Instability. That word spreads like smoke. Marcus finally snapped. This is blackmail. Daniel responded calmly. No. This is intellectual property enforcement. I watched Marcus carefully. His breathing. His hands. The way he avoided looking directly at the documentation. He wasn't mad about losing money. He was mad about losing narrative. He built his public persona on one word. Self-made. And majority equity transfer would rewrite that. It would mean he didn't build alone. It would mean he wasn't the sole genius. It would mean he needed me. And Marcus never liked needing anyone. After 3 hours, the meeting ended without final agreement. But something shifted. Because as we stood up, Marcus didn't argue. He didn't threaten. He didn't posture. He just looked at me and said quietly, "You're really going to take it?" Not a question. A realization. I met his eyes. I'm taking back what's mine. That evening, something unexpected happened. An old college friend messaged me. "Hey, did you and Marcus start that channel together?" I stared at the message for a long time. Because here's the thing about truth. It waits. And once cracks appear, people start asking. I didn't expose him publicly. I didn't post threads. I didn't leak messages. I simply replied. Yes. One word. But truth has gravity. And gravity pulls. 2 days later, a small commentary channel uploaded a video. Did he steal his channel idea? Speculation. Screenshots. Clips from early interviews where Marcus mentioned brainstorming with a friend. The internet started connecting dots. Marcus posted a defensive tweet. People love spreading lies when they see success. Lies. That word. It felt familiar. Like just an idea. His engagement dropped that week. Not drastically. But noticeably. Comments shifted tone. Skepticism creeped in. The confident swagger in his uploads felt forced. And the more he tried to act normal, the more unnatural it looked. Because guilt leaks. Even through a camera lens. Then Daniel called me with new information. His legal team wants mediation. Not settlement. Mediation. Which means neutral third party. Structured negotiation. Which means they're cornered. I agreed. Because mediation means documentation gets reviewed thoroughly. And once everything is on record, there's no going back. That night, Marcus texted me something different. Not business. Not negotiation. Why didn't you just build your own? I stared at that message longer than any other. Because he still didn't understand. It wasn't about building another. It was about integrity. About not rewarding betrayal. About not letting someone rewrite history simply because they went viral first. I finally replied. Because you built mine. He didn't respond. Tomorrow was mediation. And Marcus didn't realize something yet. I wasn't just fighting for equity. I had one more document ready. One he hadn't seen. One that would shift everything from negotiation to inevitability. Mediation day felt strangely calm. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that happens right before something irreversible shifts. We met in a neutral office building downtown. Glass walls. Soft lighting. A long wooden table dividing both sides like a fault line. Marcus arrived 10 minutes late. He used to hate being late. Now he looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. His usual confident posture? Gone. Shoulders slightly forward. Jaw tight. Phone constantly lighting up with notifications he kept flipping face down. The mediator introduced herself. Professional. Neutral. Detached. Perfect. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about evidence. Daniel began by summarizing the claim. Clear. Linear. Chronological. Creation timeline. Asset documentation. Domain ownership. Brand architecture. Revenue linkage. Marcus avoided eye contact the entire time. Until Daniel said. And finally, we have documented written communication acknowledging collaborative development prior to launch. Marcus looked up instantly. That was the document he hadn't seen. I slid a printed screenshot across the table. A text exchange. Date stamped. 2 months before launch. Marcus. Once we drop this channel, we're going to shock people. Me. We. Marcus. Obviously. This is ours. Ours. The mediator adjusted her glasses. Marcus's lawyer leaned forward. Context matters, he said quickly. It does, Daniel replied. Which is why the metadata, file creation dates, and domain registration are included. The room felt smaller. Air heavier. Because text messages don't lie easily. Especially when paired with timestamps. Marcus finally spoke. His voice wasn't angry. It was cracking at the edges. You were dragging your feet. Dragging. Like 8 months of building foundation was laziness. I was stabilizing income, I replied evenly. You were impatient. Silence. The mediator asked a simple question. Was there ever an agreement regarding ownership? Marcus hesitated. Just for half a second. But hesitation in legal rooms is loud. We talked about it, he said. Was there an agreement, she repeated. He swallowed. No. And that word echoed. Because no agreement means no transfer of rights. Which means original ownership claims stay alive. Daniel then presented financial projections. If escalated to formal court proceedings and platform arbitration. Potential monetization freeze. E-sponsorship suspension. Revenue audit. Discovery process. Marcus's manager visibly paled. Because audits don't just look at IP. They look at contracts. Expenses. Tax filings. Payment timelines. And Marcus scaled fast. Very fast. Too fast. The mediator called for a short break. Marcus followed me into the hallway. No lawyers. No managers. Just us. For the first time since this began, it felt like college again. 2 guys in a hallway. Only now the stakes weren't grades. They were millions. Ryan, he said quietly, you're going to destroy both of us. I shook my head. No. I'm forcing truth. You'll lose the audience. Maybe. He searched my face. You don't even care about the spotlight. He finally understood something. I never did, I said. That's what makes this worse, he whispered. Because he realized something then. If I wanted fame, he could fight that. If I wanted money, he could negotiate that. But I wanted structure. Control. Correction. And those are harder to manipulate. Back in the room, Marcus's lawyer requested private consultation. 30 minutes passed. Then they returned. Offer revised. 40% equity. No public acknowledgement. Revenue back pay lump sum. NDA. Again, they wanted silence. They wanted to keep narrative intact. Daniel looked at me. I didn't respond immediately. Because here's the truth no one tells you about revenge. The closer you get to winning, the heavier it feels. Because you're not just punishing someone. You're changing your relationship permanently. There is no going back after majority control. There is no brother again. Only business. Only memory. Only distance. I leaned forward. Majority equity, I repeated calmly. Public acknowledgement. Structured governance. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something had shifted. The fight was fading. Reality setting in. You've been building this case since the party, he said quietly. Yes. And there's no version where I win this. It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. Because he already knew. The mediator looked between us. Are we moving toward agreement? Marcus stared at the table for a long moment. Then he said something I didn't expect. If I sign, I stay as the face. It wasn't defiance. It was vulnerability. The one thing he still had. Yes, I said. You stay as the face. Because I didn't want his identity. I wanted the structure corrected. He nodded slowly. And for the first time since this began, Marcus looked small. Not weak. Just human. But before final signatures, Daniel added one final clause. Creative co-founder acknowledgement in all official bias and brand documents. Permanent. Non-removable. Marcus's pen hovered above the paper. This was the moment. The irreversible shift. The end of self-made. The end of pretending. He looked at me one last time. And I saw something unexpected. Not hatred. Not rage. Regret. Then he signed. The contract wasn't finalized yet. There were still processing steps. Platform notifications. Sponsor updates. Equity transfer filings. But legally, the shift had begun. Marcus walked out without speaking. His manager followed. Daniel closed his folder calmly. It's done, he said quietly. But he was wrong. Because something bigger was about to happen. The public statement. And Marcus had no idea what I planned to include in it. The paperwork finalized 3 days later. Digital signatures confirmed. Equity transferred. Holding company activated. Control restructured. Legally. It was done. But legally done and publicly done are two very different things. Marcus still had 5.2 million subscribers. Still had an audience that believed he built everything alone. Still had interviews where he said the channel started as a random idea. And that narrative was about to change. We drafted the public statement carefully. Not dramatic. Not accusatory. Just factual. Clear acknowledgement of co-creation. Clarification of ownership restructuring. Commitment to future collaboration. Neutral tone. Professional language. But the weight behind it? Explosive. Marcus read the draft 3 times before responding. You're really going to post this? Yes. People will think I lied. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked him something simple. Did you? Silence. He looked away. That was answer enough. We agreed to post simultaneously. Same time. Same wording. Transparency. No spin. At 6 p.m., the statement went live. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then notifications started. Comments. Shares. Threads. Speculation. Shock. Some fans supportive. Some confused. Some angry. A few felt betrayed. Because audiences don't just follow content. They follow stories. And Marcus's story had just changed. Within an hour, co-founder was trending in his comments. Old clips resurfaced. Interviews dissected. People comparing early wording to now. And here's the thing about the internet. It doesn't forget. But it respects receipts. And we had receipts. Marcus didn't post a video that day. Or the next. His subscriber count dipped slightly. Nothing catastrophic. But enough to sting. Enough to feel. Meanwhile, sponsors resumed communication. Because uncertainty was resolved. Ownership clarified. Risk stabilized. Stability attracts money. Chaos repels it. 2 days later, we had our first official internal meeting as structured partners. The same office. Same table. Different power dynamic. Marcus sat across from me. But this time, he wasn't the center. The governance agreement required dual approval for major decisions. Budget oversight. Creative direction consultation. Structured reporting. The channel wasn't just vibes anymore. It was infrastructure. And infrastructure runs on systems. Systems I built. Where do we go from here? Marcus asked quietly. Not arrogantly. Not defensively. Genuinely. That was new. We rebuild trust, I said. With who? Everyone. Including me. But I didn't say that part. The first co-branded episode launched a week later. For the first time ever? My voice appeared. Not dominant. Not flashy. Just present. Viewers reacted immediately. Wait, this is the other guy. He sounds smart. This makes more sense now. It wasn't explosive praise. It was gradual acceptance. And that's stronger. Because viral spikes fade. But credibility builds. Behind the scenes, I tightened everything. Contracts. Editor agreements. Financial tracking. Sponsor clauses. No more shortcuts. No more chaos scaling. Marcus resisted at first. He liked freedom. Spontaneity. Speed. But speed without structure is how we got here. And he knew that now. One evening after recording, he stayed behind. Just the two of us in the studio. Cameras off. Lights dim. You could have destroyed me, he said quietly. Yes. Why didn't you? I paused. Because this question mattered. Because destruction doesn't fix theft, I replied. Correction does. He nodded slowly. And for the first time in over a year, there was no ego in his eyes. Just understanding. But here's what he didn't realize. This wasn't the final shift. Because while restructuring his empire, I had been quietly building something else. Not competition. Not replacement. Expansion. A new vertical under the holding company. Different niche. Different tone. Entirely mine. And when it launches, it won't be built on betrayal. It will be built on control. And Marcus? He'll have to watch it grow. Without being able to claim it. Because this time, the foundation is airtight. Control doesn't feel loud. It doesn't feel explosive. It feels quiet. Like walking into a room and knowing every lever works because you installed them. That's what the next 3 months felt like. Quiet control. Marcus adapted faster than I expected. At first, he tried subtle resistance. Pushing upload deadlines without review. Negotiating brand terms without looping me in. Testing boundaries. Old habits. But governance agreements don't care about habits. They care about signatures. And every time he tried to move without structure, the system pushed back. Not emotionally. Automatically. Revenue stabilized. Sponsors returned. Engagement leveled out. Not peak viral chaos, but steady, healthy, predictable. And here's something Marcus had never experienced before. Sustainable growth. No frantic scrambling. No sleepless panic about ad pauses. No hidden financial holes. Structure removed fear. But it also removed illusion. Because now it was obvious. The empire didn't run on charisma. It ran on systems. My systems. Then my second project launched. No dramatic announcement. No controversy. Just a teaser. Different branding. Different niche. Still cinematic. Still strategic. But clearly separate. Under my holding company. Legally airtight. No shared ownership. No blurred lines. Marcus saw the teaser before it went live. "You're expanding," he said carefully. "Yes." He studied the branding mock-ups on my screen. "You didn't ask for partnership." No. That silence between us wasn't hostile. It was informative. For the first time, he was on the outside of something I built. And that's when he understood what I felt a year ago. Watching someone else hold your idea. The launch day was calm. No sponsor drama. No legal tension. Just clean execution. The first video crossed 100,000 views in 24 hours. Organic. Earned. Mine. Marcus didn't congratulate me publicly. But he texted privately. "Proud of you." That sentence would have meant everything 2 years ago. Now it felt balanced. Not emotional. Not heavy. Just honest. As my second channel grew, something unexpected happened. People began comparing us. Ryan's style feels more structured. Marcus is great on camera, but Ryan's depth is insane. Now it makes sense why the original channel worked. Comparison isn't always toxic. Sometimes it reveals truth. Marcus read those comments too. I could tell. Because during recordings, he started listening more. Interrupting less. Preparing deeper. Growth. Not viral growth. Personal growth. One night after a long production session, Marcus stayed behind again. "You know what the worst part was?" he asked quietly. "What?" "I convinced myself you'd never fight back." I didn't respond immediately. He continued. "I thought you were too calm. Too nice. Too behind." Behind. That word again. He used to think speed equaled superiority. Now he understood something different. Patience is power. "I underestimated you," he admitted. "Yes," I said calmly. There was no arrogance in my voice. Just truth. Months passed. Revenue doubled. Both channels thriving. Structured team. Healthy cash flow. Public trust restored. And yet, there was still something unfinished between us. Not legally. Not financially. Emotionally. Because betrayal leaves a scar even after justice. One evening, Marcus asked to talk outside of business. We sat in the same diner booth from mediation day. Same neon light flickering above us. Different energy. "I was jealous," he said quietly. "That caught me off guard." "Of what?" "Your brain." I blinked. He continued. "You think in systems. I think in moments. I always knew that. And when your idea started taking shape, I panicked. I thought if I didn't move first, I'd be stuck behind you forever." Behind. Fear of being second. Fear of invisibility. Fear disguised as ambition. For the first time, I saw the root. Not greed. Not cruelty. Insecurity. It didn't excuse what he did. But it explained it. And understanding changes things. "I should have trusted you," he said. "Yes. I should have waited. Yes. I should have said your name." That one hit deeper than I expected. Because it wasn't money that hurt. It was erasure. We sat there in silence for a long moment. 10 years of friendship. 1 year of betrayal. 6 months of legal warfare. And now, balance. Not perfect. Not innocent. But balanced. But here's the part Marcus still didn't know. There was one final layer to this story. One final move I had planned long before mediation. Not revenge. Not control. Legacy. Because ownership isn't just about now. It's about what happens next. And what I was about to do would make it clear to everyone who truly built the foundation. Legacy is different from revenge. Revenge proves a point. Legacy builds something that outlives the point. For months after mediation, I kept something quiet. Not because I was hiding it, but because timing matters. Marcus thought restructuring was the final move. He thought equity transfer was the climax. He didn't understand something about me. I don't build for moments. I build for permanence. 6 months after the public acknowledgement, I scheduled a live company town hall. Team members, editors, managers, legal advisors. Marcus sat across the table, unaware of the full agenda. The screen behind me lit up with a new slide. Holding company expansion plan. Phase 3. Marcus looked confused. We're scaling again, he asked. Yes, I replied calmly. But this wasn't another channel. This wasn't merch. This wasn't a tour. This was structural evolution. I had spent the last several months quietly acquiring small niche commentary pages, Instagram accounts, short-form news breakdown channels, email lists. Nothing flashy, but collectively, powerful, consolidated under the holding company, which I majority controlled. The room watched as I outlined the strategy. Centralized production pipeline, shared legal infrastructure, cross-platform monetization, licensing deals, podcast network, educational breakdown series. What Marcus built was a viral channel. What I was building was a media ecosystem. And the original channel was now just one branch, not the trunk. Marcus leaned back slowly. You've been planning this since before mediation, haven't you? Yes. Even if I didn't sign? Yes. That's when it hit him. The equity fight wasn't about winning a battle. It was about positioning for scale. And scale doesn't ask for permission. It absorbs. The final slide appeared. Founder and Executive Director, Ryan. On-camera talent and creative lead, Marcus. Defined roles. Defined authority. Defined structure. Clear. Permanent. Not emotional. Architectural. The team applauded. Not because of drama. But because stability feels safe. And safety breeds loyalty. Marcus clapped too. Slowly. Not forced. Not bitter. Just accepting. After the meeting, he asked to talk privately. We stood in the empty office. City lights glowing through the glass walls. You won, he said quietly. I shook my head. No. He frowned slightly. This isn't about winning. Then what is it? Balance. Because if I wanted to destroy him, I could have. Platform escalation. Court proceedings. Public exposure campaign. He would have lost sponsors. Lost reputation. Lost control entirely. But destruction would have left rubble. And rubble doesn't build legacy. I needed you to understand something, I continued. What? That ideas matter. Structure matters. Credit matters. He nodded slowly. I understand now. And I believed him. Because insecurity doesn't survive exposure. It either hardens or humbles. He had been humbled. A year later, the ecosystem tripled in size. Revenue diversified. No single sponsor dependency. No chaos scaling. The original channel thrived under structure. My second channel surpassed 2 million subscribers. Quietly. Without drama. Without theft. Just systems. Marcus evolved too. More disciplined. More collaborative. Less ego. He even started publicly crediting team members by name in videos. Small change. Big meaning. One evening, we returned to that same college rooftop we used to sit on. City skyline stretching endlessly ahead. You know, Marcus said softly, when this started blowing up, I was terrified. Of what? That I wasn't enough. I looked at him carefully. You weren't alone. That was the truth he missed. He thought success was a solo race. But structure is collaborative. Security is collaborative. Growth is collaborative. The moment he tried to outrun partnership, he fractured it. The moment he accepted structure, it multiplied. The irony? The audience eventually forgot the drama. They remembered the quality. They respected the transparency. They valued the growth. Because online fame is fragile. But documented truth? That lasts. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not going nuclear. If I regret not publicly exposing every detail. If I regret not humiliating him. And I always answer the same way. No. Because humiliation fades. Ownership compounds. And every time revenue hits the holding company account, every time contracts renew under structured governance, every time my name sits permanently in the founder documentation, that's not revenge. That's restoration. Marcus once told me, when one of us blows up, we both eat. He just didn't expect me to define the table. The end.